Hi, I'm Bruce Williams. I'm the CEO of the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce, and that's why we call this Chamber Chats. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that I live and work in the ancestral territories of the Lekwungen-speaking Coast Salish nations, the Songhees and the Esquimalt. It's our privilege and honor to live and work alongside them every day. The Chamber Chats are made possible by the support of Island Savings, a division of First West Credit Union, and normally we would do this from the studios at Czech Television, but in the meantime, we are located where I am at the Chamber office, and my guest is in her office. You know, we've had a lot of conversation during COVID about people sort of challenging our healthcare system, saying that there are things about it that don't work, saying that there have been some problems. But I'm here to say there are parts of it that work very well. And the things that we access when we go to the hospital for whether it's profound or serious care or everyday care, that's put in place because of the work of the organization that we're going to talk about today. The Victoria Hospitals Foundation has put in place much of the technology that keeps us healthy and well. Avery Broman is the executive director of the Hospitals Foundation. Avery, welcome to Chamber Chats. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Bruce. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So let's talk just in general terms, high level. What is the Hospitals Foundation? What do you do?
Thank you. I think that's the universal question and the universal dilemma that so many hospital foundations face, to be perfectly honest, because people don't understand what our role is. In simplified terms, healthcare is free. It sure is, but we can do so much more with donations. So our Hospital Foundation raises priority investment equipment for Royal Jubilee, Victoria General, and Gorge Road hospitals. We also raise money for research, education, and special projects. And in fact, 40% of the equipment in our local hospitals is because of generous donor support. So I simply could not imagine what our hospitals would look like without that support. And since inception of our foundation, we've raised $165 million. And to be honest, Bruce, we're going to need to do that again because there's been a domino effect with this pandemic, and every single year Island Health asks us for more, and we say yes. And we need our community to help us do that.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about what the foundation does, what the outcome is of what you do. I want to start with another question. What would happen if you weren't there? What if the Hospitals Foundation was not doing what you do? What would our healthcare system look like?
It wouldn't be what it is today. Care would not be always on the island. As I mentioned before, $165 million invested in our hospitals. And, you know, we haven't scratched the surface yet. This is a growing and aging population, and we need more. What would they be like? I often dream of having an image or a video where 40% of the equipment is removed from the sites so the community can actually see what that looks like. We have award-winning healthcare centers like our Heart Health team, our pediatric department. So much of the resources that our community has access to is because of donor funding those sites. We've embarked many campaigns over the past few years, capital campaigns, in fact. We've built towers. Just last year, our community rallied for critical care. I think critical care was in the news everywhere. I think every single day we were looking at Bonnie's updates. We were listening to Minister Dix and Island Health, and we were seeing that we had a significant shortage. I mean, any care member in our hospitals, and Island Health will tell you, we had capacity issues before the pandemic, and now we're faced with more issues. And so our community rallied together and funded a permanent high acuity unit. That was a step down from an ICU, but certainly a step up from a regular unit. We were the only health authority in BC without one of these units. So your question, without donor support, well, we wouldn't have the high acuity unit that we do now. If we had to wait for government, we'd be waiting much longer.
And that would cost us tax dollars, whereas this is someone coming forward. The acuity model had a very generous investment contribution from, well, we've already talked about that. We did in the previous podcast, but C-SPAN stepped up, right?
They did. And many organizations have stepped up to our aid. Last year, in fact, we received 10,000 gifts from the community, and we need to sustain that amount of fundraising, certainly, because of what Island Health is asking for. But our community has enabled us to do so much more. You know, our donors, outside of just the critical needs that Island Health asks us for, our donors step forward and say, this was something meaningful for me that I had to go off the island for. Am I able to support this within our hospitals? And we work on that strategic investment with them because when a donor in the community finds out what they can actually do, you know, with the power of philanthropy, our hospitals are stronger because of it.
Yeah, and you mentioned too about providing care at home. If this stuff doesn't happen here,
Hmm.
people would then, on top of being unwell or unsure about something, would have to be going to Vancouver. They'd have to be on the
Hmm.
ferry. They'd have to come back and forth. That's time and that's added stress. So that's a huge factor. I mean,
Hmm.
that's almost a mental health aspect aside from the physical health, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. My career spans many different provinces and territories in
Hmm.
Canada. I've been here now for almost 4 years, and I feel like I did hit the jackpot landing in Victoria. But I will say that the hospital foundations and the fundraising work I did in the healthcare sector prior to coming here, we didn't have the hospitals that we have here. Like Victoria needs to be very, very proud of, especially the two hospitals that we support here, the referral sites, because for the size of population we are, we have award-winning sites. You know, not everywhere across Canada do we have the small population size and the large hospitals and capacity that we do. And we need to feel proud about that. And truly, I believe it's because of the investments of our community and our donors that truly understand that they could advance healthcare with making a gift.
You talked about the acuity unit. There are some other things that are in place here that we all know about, which have been made possible by the foundation. I want to talk about those next. Chamber Chats today, we're speaking with Avery Broman, who's the executive director of the Victoria Hospitals Foundation. So the acuity unit was put in place by generosity of people like the Dennis Washington Foundation and C-SPAN. Tell me some of the other things of the last few years, Avery, that have happened because of the work of your organization and the generosity of your donors.
Yeah. So prior to this campaign that we just launched right now to fund 200 pieces of priority equipment, we funded a new sub-acute unit for Eric Martin Pavilion. So on Royal Jubilee campus, we have a mental health space for patients across the island that need to access that space. Island Health realized that there was a bit of a gap in care, and they came to us and said, can you help us raise or give us $1 million so we can create a substance use unit that really enables a smoother transition out into the community and helps a patient population that isn't being supported the way they truly could right now? And we said yes. Prior to that, we've funded a variety of imaging equipment, and we outfitted both hospital sites with monitors. So
Mm-hmm.
we funded about $1.5 million worth of monitors not too long ago. Honestly, Bruce, over the past few years and since I've been at the foundation, and I know that there's been incredible work prior to me, I have seen hundreds of pieces of equipment and new spaces being built because of our community. And I cannot imagine, especially in the pandemic, not having the strength and not having those pieces of equipment before COVID hit.
Yeah, we've heard people say from the very beginning of this pandemic that the mental health impact of this pandemic is going to be greater than the economic impact. But when you talk about these things that are happening when people come forward, if we were paying for all of this with tax dollars, that would increase our taxes. The other way to look at it, too, is when money is given through your organization, you get a tax receipt instead of paying more taxes. So let's talk a little bit about the paperwork in that if somebody does want to get a break on their taxes, they can give you money.
Yeah, no, there's a great benefit to anybody that makes a donation to our foundation, and our community has been really strategic with how they're giving, and we encourage everyone to work with their financial advisor. You know, we don't want to give you advice, but I will say over the past year or so, we've seen many different gifts in a strategic way come through us. So it is a benefit to not only the donor, but to the hospitals as well. And you've brought up taxes. I will say that the government does work, and they support our hospitals in a great way. They've really stepped up for sure during the pandemic as well. But if we just wait for government support and government support alone, we wouldn't have what we have today. And then the government also offers Island Health investments every year and creates priority investment areas. If our donors can support the equipment piece, that means that Island Health has more money from the government to do the other things they need. For example, with COVID, the hiring, the organizing, the operations of our hospital, the staffing, that has been so significant. That's truly outside of our space. We fund equipment, research, education, and special projects. We're not funding salaries. We're not hiring new care teams. When we are able to support our hospitals in a greater way, with the support that they get from the government can go elsewhere. And there's a strategic component. We truly are all in this together. There's many stakeholders involved with Island Health, the government, and our community. And we really need to look at it that way, that, this is a pie that we all have a vital piece of.
Yeah, and that's a key point that you make too, that it's Island Health. It's Kathy McNeil and the team she's the CEO. They determine what the needs are. It's not your foundation that says, hey, let's go out and raise money for one of those. They identify those things within this. So that's how this is also strategic and how it's so effective, right?
It is, yes. There's no way as the executive director I can tell our hospitals what they need. I can certainly listen to the community. We're aware of the appetite of where the community wants to help. For example, when Island Health came to us last year and said, we need some funding for our mental health space, I knew that the community was talking about mental health, and I knew that they would come to our aid when we asked. But certainly there is a cascading effect of, Island Health executive, the unit directors, multiple care teams across the board that deem what is most, appropriate and what should be prioritized for then us to help support. It goes both ways too, though, Bruce. We fund what Island Health is requesting, but many donors might come to us and say, I'd like to really make a significant investment and offer the hospital something they don't currently have. And those strategic initiatives and big special projects are so important to us as well. So it's important to know that, if a donor is intrigued about a certain area of care, or anyone in the community, and has the capacity to do something quite transformational, we can say yes. And then we work with Island Health on that priority. So my dream is to see a huge transformation in the next 10 years in our hospital. And I think we need that because of our growing and aging population. And I know that with the community better understanding what we can do and what they can do, we'll get there.
Yeah, aging is a big factor with us here. And you mentioned the mental health request that came from VHA too. The pandemic itself, big pivot. There had to be some pivots by everyone. And the nature of our healthcare has probably had to make some pivots. Is there anything else aside from that mental health investment that was made that has shifted anything in the priorities for VHA that your foundation has been asked to undertake?
Taking care of the staff, looking out for those heroes that are truly managing something so beyond what we all can experience and what we know. We are creating recognition opportunities. We're trying to celebrate as much as possible. We're not taking away from the vital needs that will support patients, but certainly over Thanksgiving, we were doing hampers to every single unit. We're bombarding, cars in the parking lot with kind messages. We asked our community to step forward and not even just make a gift, just share some words of encouragement, because it is tough right now and it continues to be tough. We've all experienced changes, but we've all, I think, had somewhat of a bit of a relief over the last 2 years. There is a certain group of people in our community that have not experienced that relief. So, paying attention to their needs has been one of our priority areas as well.
I understand some people were also given a medal.
They were. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. I love talking to you because you definitely give me some great ideas and innovations. We celebrated a significant gift a few months ago from the Lai family, and they invested $5 million to support multiple areas of care in our hospitals. And we shared with our care teams, some board members of ours that volunteer their time because they're amazing to help our work, and the Lai family themselves. We shared the impact they were making, but we also honored them with a love medal. And that is a local company that creates these beautiful pins that, share and embody strength and love. And that's really what fundraising is, and that is what philanthropy is. And we pinned them all. And I have to say, we met with the donor not too long ago again, Mr. Lai, and he had his pin on, and it was just so special. So thank you again, Bruce. You really do help our organization and create new opportunities for us. And that was one of them.
Well, Love Medals is a member of this chamber, so that's a chamber-to-chamber connection. And I don't have mine on today, but I have one as well that I actually got from my family, and it was quite an emotional experience, and it was really something to go through that.
Another chamber connection I do want to say, because I know that Island Savings is sponsoring this podcast right now.
Yes, they are.
When we were up against a challenge with raising the $1 million for the mental health unit in such a short period of time, I called Kendall, the CEO that you
Kendall
probably know
Gross.
quite well, Kendall
Mm-hmm.
Gross, and I said, I need your help. And he said, give me a minute. We want to help. And just the power of community and the power of helping one another is so important. I will say there's so many charities in our community that need to do well. It actually prevents people coming to the hospital when all charities are thriving. But there's something unique about a hospital foundation. We cannot be categorized in that grouping because every single one of us has a responsibility to make sure that our hospitals are strong and healthcare is strong. And I think that day when I called Kendall, he didn't look at it like, what's on the radar? What do we already have going on this year? It's, what do our hospitals need? The thing that all 850,000 of us on this island look to 24/7 if we need help and support. And that's philanthropy. That really is, that's a community champion. And we're so grateful that he was able to do that for us.
Yeah, that sense of pride that you mentioned is something I want to talk about a little bit more next. Our guest today on the Chamber Chat is Avery Broman, who's the executive director of the Victoria Hospitals Foundation. When you talk about the pride that someone feels when a corporation, whether it's C-SPAN or the Washington family or Island Savings or anybody else, what that does though for the culture of that company and their employees can look to their employer and say, I really feel good about what they did. That's a really great feeling for those employees, isn't it?
Yeah, I can tell you with both of those organizations together, one of the first things they said is, how can our employees help? And, with C-SPAN, they also created a matching campaign. So when we were at the very end of a match to kind of get us through the final stage of building this high acuity unit and funding it completely, the Victoria Shipyards employees actually donated the last $50,000. That's pretty exceptional. And then with Island Savings, Kendall was saying, this is great, like the donation's great, but how can we actually help the staff working in these sites? And they had ice cream trucks coming to the hospitals. Like their staff were out, handing, ice cream out to our staffs that were, our staff members here at the hospital that were fully spent and fully taxed. And I've got to tell you, the power of one ice cream bar, went so far because it was so important that the staff realized that there's community thinking about them too. Not every single staff member is going to see what one donation can do. But if they're also engaged in the community aspect of it and feeling recognized and being celebrated for what they're doing, that makes up philanthropy as well. And these companies are so community-minded, and we have many companies like that. These are just two examples, because of the connection with the Chamber. But we live in a community and on an island where companies are very invested in their staff and in charities. And I'm very much hoping that we'll continue to get more support from our corporate community for our hospitals, because we need it.
Yeah. While we're at it, you mentioned the Lau family. Who else? Who else would you like to give a shout out to that's come forward with their philanthropy and generosity? Be it a large gift or a small one, because they all matter.
It's a big question, but everyone. I'll speak on behalf of one couple in a moment, but I do want to just say, Bruce, that every single gift, large and small, means the same. Like perhaps it can go further, a larger gift, but I want people hearing this and people in our community to know that, they matter just as much as like $1 million donor matters to us. That $5, like multiple gifts of $5 is going to go very far. Last year, 10,000 people came forward to help us raise over $15 million. Those weren't all $1 million gifts. Those weren't all $1,000 gifts. We do this work together with the generosity of our community. But I will like to shout out one couple in particular, and it's the Marley couple, Mike and Ethel, grateful patients that just received award-winning care from our heart health team that cannot speak more highly of the care that they received. And Dr. Shetty, their cardiologist, they stepped up and said, how are you doing in this current campaign you have? Because we knew that we went big with this. It's a $10 million campaign. And we've broken it out into 3 phases. And they wanted to know how they could help. And we said, well, we have $600,000 left to go in the first phase of this campaign. And they said, why don't we match some dollars? We want to really make sure that more people in this community can support you because we know it's needed right now. That is so touching, and we're so grateful for that. You know, this is a family that received care, and they saw firsthand that the equipment that was used on Mike was funded by our donors, and now they're giving back in a very generous way. So we're hoping that that also ignites and creates a little bit more of a spark in our community. And what I love about them as well, and you alluded to this in the beginning, Bruce, is that good things are happening in our hospitals all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this isn't, we see some things on the news, and people are very quick to talk about what's not working. But what is working is there's miracles happening in every room, in every hallway, and Mike was one of them, and we're so grateful for that.
You know, there are people, I've spent a significant time in my life, and I'm only saying this as motivation, doing either volunteer work or finding some way to contribute financially to organizations that mean a lot. By doing so, you feel terrific about yourself. I'm not going to lie to you. There is a selfish part of that because you feel so good. Avery, we're just about out of time, but what else do we need to know about the current campaign that's on right now?
I need you to know that we need more people supporting it. We have 200 pieces of priority equipment that our hospitals need, like tomorrow. We knew this was a big ask. We knew it was a big ask after we funded the high acuity unit. But if more people can step up and become involved with our mission, that is going to keep our hospitals strong. Now is the time where your donation can be doubled because of the Marleys and their generosity. And we want to meet new people. We ask for your support. We are $3.4 million away from the $10 million goal. We have some work to do, but if we all do it together, gifts big and small, I know we can do it. So please visit our website, victoriahf.ca. Learn about the campaign, engage us on social media. Call me. My contact's in the chamber, I think, contact
on the
list.
website, yep.
Let's do some work together, please.
Yeah, because every time you give a buck, it becomes two. So that investment is doubled whenever you make it. Avery, thank you to you and your team for the inspiring work that you do, for the important work you do to keep us all healthy, and all the best on all you're doing. And we'll catch up again soon.
Thank you so much, Bruce. Take care.
Avery Broman is the Executive Director of the Victoria Hospitals Foundation. Thanks again to Island Savings for the support. I'm Bruce Williams. We'll see you again soon for another Chamber Chat.